Okay, well, welcome to today's webinar, Reducing Senior Falls and Responding to the Call. The webinar is being hosted by the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation. My name is Neil Zipser from the Knox Company, and I'll be serving as the moderator. First and foremost, we hope that everyone on the call today, including their families, friends, and colleagues, are safe and healthy, and we thank you for taking time to join us today. We have a great lineup of speakers and believe today's topic is one that's growing in importance. If you'd like to ask questions to any of the speakers, please submit your questions in the Q&A box. We will get to as many questions as we can in our Q&A session. Also, today's webinar is being recorded and a link to access that recording will be sent to everyone over the next couple of days. Our first speaker today is Chief Ron Sarnicki, the Executive Director of the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation. Ron began his career as a firefighter with the Prince George's County Fire and EMS Department in 1978. In over 24 years, he progressed through the ranks to chief of the department. In July 2001, he retired from PG County and joined the foundation as its executive director. In this role, he has managed the day-to-day operations of the foundation, which include the National Memorial Services, construction of the National Memorial Park, and the renovation of the Fallen Firefighters Memorial Chapel located in Emmitsburg, Maryland. In addition, he helped develop the Everyone Goes Home program designed to reduce the number of firefighter line of duty deaths that occur each year in the United States. Ron, take it away.
Neil, thank you very much. And I appreciate the opportunity to be here with everybody. And first, welcome to all of our participants. And we've got a lot, of course, going on within our world today, but it's an opportunity to really spend time with each of you and chat a little bit about what's going on within our community. I'd be remiss if I didn't thank the partners on this call, and of course, Knox Company, who's been a long-time partner of the foundation, and the NFPA. We've got some great speakers and some excellent members of our fire service leadership. They're going to provide some input, and this will help all of us moving forward. And I think that we've got some great information to share with all of you on this topic. My relationship with the fire service in Prince George's, I saw a lot of emergency medical and support calls relative to senior falls and the dangers involved with trying to force entry, but also to get those people to care as soon as possible. So anything prevention-wise is significant, and it's part of our Be a Hero, Save a Hero campaign. And that's something that the foundation has been working to reduce firefighter deaths and injuries for some time now. Of course, we have a variety of programs. We work to support the fire service by honoring every firefighter who dies in the line of duty in our country. And we work to help the families of those fallen firefighters rebuild their lives. And we do that through our Fire Hero family programs, which is outreach directly to the next of kin. When a firefighter dies, we reach out to provide support and assistance early on, and we stay with that family for as long as they need to bring some level of normalcy back to their life. And it's tough. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of effort, but it is the right thing to do. And of course, we do the National Memorial Service each year, and that is held in Emmitsburg in October. And a lot of our outreach to the departments that have a line of duty death is through our local assistance state teams. We have response teams in every state across the country, and their mission is to reach out when a line of duty death is reported and provide support and assistance as needed to begin that relationship with those departments. And of course, our Fire service programs, which is part of the Everyone Goes Home campaign, the establishment of the 16 firefighter life safety initiatives, something that came as a result of the work in Tampa for the Tampa Summits in 2004 and 2014. And all of those efforts really contributed to reducing the number of deaths that we've seen in our country, a reduction of almost 26% since the program started. And just recently, we created a new entity within the foundation, an affiliate called the First Responder Center for Excellence. The reason that we did that was we were getting a lot of requests for our programs and services for our brothers and sisters in law enforcement and EMS community. And it was slightly different from the congressional mandate placed on the foundation. And so this affiliate was created to really take our programming and spread it across the entire public safety spectrum. That's proven to be pretty effective, and it really has helped us to partner with our brothers and sisters across the entire first responder community to provide the programs and services that we know that are related to psychological health, wellness, emotional support, cancer, and behavioral health. I would add that one of the things any nonprofit has to do is work to ensure that the transparency of our funding and our programming is there. The foundation is very proud that we have a 4-star Charity Navigator rating, which is the highest rating available through that system of evaluation. And that equates to that about 14% of our costs are related to the administrative and management, meaning that 85+% goes directly to programs. Now you wonder why we talk about money. Well, when the foundation was created, there was no direct funding stream. We have to raise all the money that we need to do our programming. And when we are entrusted with people's dollars, people from the general public and corporations such as Knox and NFPA and others, it is important that we show that there is a meaningful use of those dollars and that every single cent is accounted for. We've had multiple years with no issues with an unmodified audit. We also deal with full compliance with all of the federal regulations, and we're very proud of the fact that we've had no issues related to our transparency as an organization. And I saved the kind of one of the biggest things that we do for last, and that is the National Memorial. Many of you in the fire service have been there. It's in Emmitsburg at the home of the National Fire Academy. It is very sacred ground where we add the names of fallen firefighters each year to the memorial wall that surrounds the monument. This year, in 2020, we will hopefully be in Emmitsburg in October, but unfortunately with the COVID-19, I'm not sure any of us know what's going to happen for the rest of the year. But either way, we will do tributes to the 55 firefighters that died in 2019, plus all of the firefighters that have died as a result of World Trade Center disease last year, and we are honoring firefighters who died from cancer. And those efforts have been through a multi-approach in trying to find information about firefighters who have been afflicted by those dreaded diseases. And unfortunately, next year in 2021, we'll be looking at the 2020 deaths. And if you have not seen it, right now, as of today, we've had 49 fire and EMS personnel who've died as a result of COVID-19. Way too many. And so we will be having to address that next year as well with that memorial service. But stay tuned. Follow us on firehero.org. There's a lot of information about who we are and what we do there. And if you're so compelled to support us, there is a campaign to give to the NFFF.org. It's an avenue to bring resources that go directly to the families and the departments of firefighters who died in the line of duty. Again, I want to thank everyone that's helped the foundation get to where it is today. And also, I want to thank everyone who's joined us on this webinar. It's a great way to spend some time talking about something significant in reducing those senior falls and how we as first responders have to deal with the many elements we face when we get that call for service. Thanks to Knox for hosting and being a part of this, and thanks to the NFPA for providing their expertise, and of course, our fire service leadership.
Thanks, Ron. That's a great opening, and we hope some of the rapid access programs we talk about today will also help reduce the risks that firefighters face. Our next speakers are from the NFPA. Andrea Vastus joined the NFPA in 2018 as Senior Director of Public Education, responsible for overseeing NFPA's well-respected home fire education and wildlife programs. Andrea joined NFPA from CVS Health, where she oversaw product development and promoted the role of the pharmacist in the healthcare industry. She will be joined by Kelly Ransdell, who's a regional educational specialist for the NFPA, covering the 18 states in the Southern and New England regions. She works to expand fire and burn education and works with national organizations, state agencies, and local fire departments to enhance their educational programs. Andrea, it's all yours.
Thank you so much, and good afternoon, good morning, everyone, depending on what your time zone is. Really pleased to be here, part of this panel of experts, to be able to talk with you about some of our most vulnerable people in our communities, the older adults, and fire and fall risk in which they bear the burden. Our quick disclaimer: NFPA does not endorse NOx or its products. We're simply here to provide information on NFPA and its programs. Founded in 1986, founded in 1896, we are a self-funded nonprofit. We're an association of about 60,000 members, 6,000 engaged stakeholders in our standards and public education development process, and 300 employees. You may know our public education division from our high-profile campaigns, Fire Prevention Week, Wildfire Community Preparedness Day. Some of our key programs, such as Firewise USA, our Learn Not to Burn curriculum, and of course, our Sparky apps, games, videos that allow our fire and life safety educators ways in which to engage the community. We also have a myriad of, and I'm trying to get it to advance the slide, sorry. We have a myriad of free downloadable resources off of our website, from tip sheets to campaigns. Our Sparky.org and Sparky Schoolhouse platforms provide numerous lesson plans for parents, teachers, and public educators. And of course, our cornerstone document, the Educational Messaging Desk Reference. This is our most up-to-date, validated set of fire, electrical related hazards messaging for you to be able to tailor to your populations and know that we're all on the same page, saying the same thing, and most importantly, the right thing. Quick program overview of the Remembering When Fire and Fall Prevention Program for older adults, which was developed in 2013 with funding from the Centers for Disease Control. And of course, the very first question people ask is, why do you call it Remembering When? We engage our community residents in using nostalgia and activating prior knowledge in order to be able to engage them in their learning, understanding of fire and fall risks and behaviors. And therefore, we think things like we use trivia to engage people, and then we use the nostalgia, and that translates to, I remember to do XYZ when I'm cooking. Why do we engage the fire service in this? And this program was developed with the fire service in mind. You are often the first line of seeing things in a resident's home before families or their medical professionals know. And how many lift assists you've had to go to, I'm sure. And we know that those same people go to their doctors and they're not disclosing their falls. They're not letting their families know that they're having these kinds of issues. So you're often the very first person to recognize some of these risks. As a trusted community helper, you're often one of the best people to be able to intervene. Why older adults? This is where the data really comes in. And what we need to recognize is that at age 65, adults are twice as likely to be killed or injured from fires, and that risk increases to threefold by 75 and fourfold by 85. And as we've mentioned, we know that lift assists and falls are increasing in incidence in the EMS runs. And we know that fully 30% increase in fall death rates in the US from 2007 to 2016. So we are seeing a real increase in this. Next, please. There's really more to the story for this. When we think about why older adults are at high risk for the fires and falls, and just aging puts you at risk. One of the things that we know is 95% of adults over 65 live alone, at either alone or with others independently in their home. And it is their desire to stay that way. And so we know that the challenges that they experience include things like decreased mobility, decreased sensory with hearing and vision. We know that the cognitive impairment, and here I am, at age 51, and I can't pull a word out of my head, right? And we all talk about our senior moments and thinking about how much more the day-to-day cognitive impairment impacts us. And then for people who are starting to have signs of dementia. Side effects from medications is a really critical one. And we know that after the age of 60, a large portion of the population is actually on 2 or more medications to manage chronic conditions. We know that being able to get out in an emergency is impacted by those physical impairments. We know that people, older people often have older, outdated stuff and possibly a lot of it. And this program actually does address issues of hoarding, because that is not only a safety issue for the resident, but also for the fire service coming in to support the residents. And then we know that often people can have trouble, whether it is just physically being able to do it or economically being able to maintain their home with snow removal and smoke alarms and batteries and light bulbs and that kinds of things. And it's really a vicious cycle. So if we think about the first fall, increases a person's risk and fear of falling. And so then they are going to decrease their activity because they're afraid of falling, which leads to decreased muscle tone and coordination and balance, which then increases their risk for the next fall. It's a really vicious cycle. A similar event happens in the fire risk, and this is why fire and fall programming goes together so nicely. That decrease in mobility and senses, combined with the increase in an aging home, appliances and structure, maybe a decrease in the frequency and quality of cleaning, which increases fire load and increased risk of fire and or inability to escape from that fire. And so this is why we're talking about older adults as a vulnerable population and one that requires attention. The other piece of remembering when, in terms of how we engage our community residents, because this is very much an engagement program in being a partner with the resident, in them learning, understanding their risks, and empowering them to make choices about their risks. And we know that across the board, people overestimate a number of things, correct? They overestimate their risk of a fire, they overestimate their ability to escape in a fire, they overestimate how long they have to escape. And one of the things we found in some of the research with our older adults is we heard a lot of, it's okay, I have a fire extinguisher. And we know that the effectiveness and the ability to use that fire extinguisher is very different than what is often thought. And then people underestimate the challenges of moving through a smoky home, the need to leave immediately, and how rapidly fire spreads. There are numerous benefits to the community and the fire service in engaging in a Remembering When program. This program doesn't sit squarely on the fire service's shoulders. This is about collaborating with additional community agencies for the health and safety of your residents. It definitely is all about helping older adults live safely at home longer. You're providing a wonderful service to your older residents. This can help with decreased reliance on EMS services for those lift assists. Again, we spend a good amount of time and resources on hoarding and dealing with hoarding issues. And, you are reaching the most vulnerable populations. And of course, all of this is to decrease the incidence of fire and falls. And speaking of that, the other question we often get is, how do we know it works? Next, please. And so we worked with the University of Iowa's College of Public Health, and the research found that Remembering When actually acts as a gateway to other falls prevention programs. And so participants of either a Remembering When group presentation or home visit are actually more likely to engage in additional evidence-based programs such as Matter of Balance, Tai Chi. And so it really is this great opportunity, because fire service is, and I say it all the time, you have the street cred. They listen to you, they respect you, and that right there opens the door to more. So I'm really pleased to turn it over now to my colleague, Kelly Ransdell, who'll go a little deeper into the nuts and bolts of the Remembering When program. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Andrea, and I'm so happy to be with y'all this afternoon. So we've kind of framed the issue of fires and falls, but we want to talk a little bit about the program components. The first thing I want to tell you is this program is free. You can download it online by going to our website, which is nfpa.org/rememberingwhen. So as we're going through this, if you want to have your web browser up and look at it, it's certainly free for download. It is going to be camera ready, and that means that you can print it off, you can download it, and it can go to a print shop and be used. So this program is very versatile because you can use it in a group presentation setting, which during these COVID-19 times is a little different, but we certainly are able to still do some stuff virtually with group presentations. We also have a home visiting component and a smoke alarm installation program that is part of the package for Remembering When. It's based off of 8 fire and 8 fall prevention messages. And these are not going to be new messages to you. You're going to see that we look at the leading causes of fire deaths and injuries, and then we pull that into some messaging. But it's also a team approach, and that is the fire and life safety educator, the fire service, is pivotal in delivery of that fire prevention messaging. You are considered one of the most admired professions, and we know that at NFPA. And so we have taken this program and we've teamed you up with somebody that may be in the healthcare or the senior adult population working with them. And so by having this team approach, you can actually go about the fire and fall prevention programs together, and you both have expertise that can add value. Kathy, I'm going to let you page through if you don't mind, ma'am. So these are, whoops, we'll go back. The first ones are the fire prevention messages. If you smoke, we want you to smoke outside. As you know, we have the leading cause of home fire deaths is still smoking. And we have looked at this to see, have fire standard compliant cigarettes help? They certainly have. But when we drive people outside, we want to make sure that they have safe disposal so that we eradicate the risk for smokers. Also, when we look at leading causes during winter months, space heaters. Unfortunately, I live in the South, and for some reason, the Midwest and even the New England and the Mid-Atlantic regions, y'all have colder winters, but you also heat better than other people. So we use a lot of space heaters in the South, and we know that you need to give them space. We want you to stay in the kitchen when frying food, providing cooking safety information. And then one that we have a lot of people wonder, are you really teaching stop, drop, and roll to senior adults? And the answer is yes. We found that lots of senior adults may have never received fire education. And because of that, when their clothing catches fire, they don't know what to do. So we actually talk about how if you have mobility issues, having some way to smother the flame, or also dropping down to the ground slowly and rolling until you extinguish any fire that were to be on your clothing. We, of course, talk about smoke alarms and how important it is that you have working smoke alarms, and also having that home escape plan with a meeting place in front of your home. We want people to know their local emergency number, wherever they are in North America. We want them to know if it's 911 or another number that they call for emergencies. And then we want them to plan their escape around their abilities. And that is, what is my plan if I have, especially during these times, if I have multiple generations in a home, what is our plan to help my parents or grandparents escape? And what can I do if we have an emergency? Because you have less than 2 minutes to get out. So fall prevention messages. And Kathy, I'll let you go back one slide for that. We have the same thing, 8 messages with fall prevention. The first one is going to be that we want you to exercise regularly. We started, remember when, in 1999, and during that time, CDC did not have evidence-based programming as yet, but in the years since this program launched, the exercise regularly piece has been tagged to many of CDC's evidence-based programs, and some of those would be like Tai Chi or Matter of Balance and the STEADY program. We want you to make sure that when you're getting up that they take their time, that they are keeping walking areas and stairs clear of debris. We want them to improve the lighting around their home. When they're in the bathroom, we want them to make sure to have non-slip mats and to make sure that they have, if they have a spill, that they wipe up that. We want them to look at the uneven surfaces in and around their home. So whether that's inside, if you have throw rugs, or if you have carpet that may have a ripple in it, even your sidewalk outside, if you're walking and you may not be looking down at your feet, you may actually trip. And so we want to make sure that people are aware of those uneven surfaces. We want to make sure your stairwells are well lit so that you can see when going up and down. And of course, that footwear. In spite of the fact that you might like some really, really chic shoes, we want to make sure you're actually wearing sturdy, well-fitting shoes. And all of these are our 8 fall prevention messages. So the materials that we offer, as I mentioned, they're all free and they're online. The first group of pictures is going to be the actual message cards, and you can actually download these and you can use them as a talking piece. You can put them into a presentation, and we do have a free PowerPoint online for you. You're going to see that we have fire and fall prevention materials, from a home checklist to safety tip sheets. We have a trivia game, and we have some icebreakers that are available. And all of these are free for download within that Remembering When page. As we're dealing with the pandemic right now, we know many of you are like, oh, I can't do these home presentations. I can't do home visits. But we are hearing from a lot of folks that they have a lot of cool ways to still reach audiences, whether it's providing materials when someone is doing Meal on Wheels visits. You know, they may actually just leave it on their porch, but you can certainly send materials for that. We have some senior adults that are doing programs with the fire department where they do kind of like a Zoom cocktail hour, but around education, where they check in. It's like a well check for seniors, either by phone or virtually. That actually was an idea that we saw out of Canada. And for the folks that are Canadian that are on this call, I want to make sure you know we do have Canadian trivia, and hopefully you've had the opportunity to work with Laura King some in Canada. So these are all materials that are available on the Remembering When webpage. You'll also see that we have translations. We have that available in English, in Mandarin, in Russian, and in Spanish. You'll see those available for you. And then we also have handouts that are available specifically for home visits. And this is going to be a regular print and a large print option for the fire prevention and safety tips. This is one of those items that you could actually print and provide, or you could send it out virtually to people across your community that are working with senior adults. In addition to that, our behavior and our message cards are great to use for these. So if you're providing maybe a tip a day, you can pull out one of these and give some information every day so people can tune into it. And then, as I mentioned, we have over 52 of the safety tip sheets on our webpage. And on our webpage, you'll find other topics from medical oxygen to home escape planning and fire safety for people with disabilities. So that's a good option for you to look at as you're trying to add auxiliary information to the program. As part of this, we have home safety checklists, and we've been talking to a lot of fire departments about what are you doing, and in a lot of cases, people are able to provide a checklist to a multi-generational family, and either the caregiver or someone living in that home can go through and check off the home safety checklist. They can FaceTime them and do that, or you can do it through other types of technology, but you can still do some of this with them and then have them fill it out, and they can call you with questions and you can walk them through it. But it's a great tool to use even in times like this because people are spending a lot of time at home. So we want you to be extra vigilant about providing education at this time. So let me summarize it, and I'm going to let Andrea do the last slide, but I just want to tell you that you can see that this is a great program for you to adopt. It provides validated, relevant fire and fall prevention messages. We give you the tools, and you can use them for the fire service, and then you can recruit a community partner that supports older adults and also caregivers. We want you thinking outside of the box on how to still do great presentations virtually. What materials you can provide, whether it's a home food delivery. Maybe you could go with some of the companies that actually provide food and pickup services, or you can just do takeout through some of the places that may have that. And we want you to make sure that the fire service is thinking of who are all the partners that I could work with to reach older adults because of their accelerated risk of fire and fall. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Andrea for one closing thought as we wrap up Remembering When.
Thank you. Yeah, this is, and I used to teach community health education at the college level, and so much of it had to do with why do we put our energies in prevention? And this is really the reason why the role of prevention versus response. Our favorite, "'Twas a dangerous cliff as they freely confessed," and quite a while is put a fence around the edge of the cliff or an ambulance down in the valley. And Remembering When is about putting a fence around the edge of the cliff so that we can minimize that ambulance down in the valley. I want to thank everybody for your time, and I know we'll take questions at the end because we have a few more wonderful speakers for you. So thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Andrea and Kelly. Our next speaker is Captain John Melling, who has been with the Fishers Fire Department for 30 years in a variety of ranks and responsibilities. His current title is External Affairs Officer with responsibility as PIO, Social Media Manager, Community Risk Reduction, Youth Fire Setting Prevention and Intervention, and Community Liaison for Education and Relations. You wear a lot of hats, John, which I'm sure everyone on this call can relate with. So take it away, John.
Thank you, Neil. I appreciate that. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. First off, I wanted to lead out with, I apologize for the picture that's on the screen that you have to stare at for the next few minutes. For those that know me, that doesn't look anything like me anymore, particularly since COVID-19 has happened. Setting my home office up next to the refrigerator may not have been the best choice for me. So I couldn't actually fit my picture into that little circle since I put on so much weight over the past few weeks. That said, let me tell you a little bit about where I'm from. From Fishers, Indiana, which is a suburb of Indianapolis. And when I got here in 1990, we had roughly 8,000 people in our community. We've grown a bit since then. We are approaching 100,000 people now with 6 fire stations and approximately 150 firefighters. Within that change, our dynamics changed as well. We started getting neighborhoods that had 55 and older in it. A lot of people that were professionals were coming in and then bringing their parents out to live near them and their grandchildren. So our whole dynamic has changed. And in fact, we had one neighborhood come in that's 55 and older that is over 1,000 homes. That's 1,000 people over 55 that is bound to increase our run load. And in fact, it did start to do that. And one of the problems that we had is that we were going out on a lot of fire alarms. We were going out on a lot of EMS alarms. And then we were also going out on a number of I can't get to the door. So as you know, through your experience, when you're on a fire alarm, you don't want to bust the door down if you don't have something overriding telling you that something's going on the inside. So, unless we could tell that there was an indication, we wouldn't go into the home. But then you've always got that in the back of your head, did I miss something? The other thing with the EMS alarms is you have to assume that someone is inside and can't get out or get to the door. So we were busting a lot of doors down. And then you do have the actual runs where people can't get to the door and you're busting those doors down. The common theme in all of that is that you're busting doors down. Now, obviously, we try to take as much care as we can not to do that, but with the change in technologies and building construction, that's becoming harder and harder not to create that damage. So now you've got a patient or a homeowner that their day is already going bad, just got worse because now they've got a broken door to deal with. So when Knox came out with their residential Knox box, it was a game changer for us, particularly in this neighborhood that has over 1,000 homes. So we started pushing this out in that neighborhood so that we could not add that additional problem of people coming home from the hospital and having to get their door fixed. We took it from a multi-approach level. So we talked to the homeowners association, we talked to the management company, and we went door to door. And we go out to quarterly meetings to talk to the residents. And essentially, we try to explain to them that by putting this on your door for a couple $100, you're going to get that money back the first time you use us. First time we use that Knox box to get in, you just saved the money that it was going to cost and the heartache it was going to cost you to replace that door. Because, and I can't speak for your departments, but for our area, that if we break a door down in those circumstances, the liability falls on the homeowner to repair those. Now, we try to secure them as best we can before we leave, but it's not locked. So this is so much better for everybody involved. We went one step further. We actually got the people that live in the neighborhood to form a group that would actually go out and promote this. So they would come to the meetings, they set up displays, and it was the people in the community selling it versus the fire department. We would support them, we would come out and we would talk about them, we would talk about what it is that we do when we come out to your house. But ultimately, it came down to the people in the neighborhood selling the product to keep their neighbors safe. One of the other things that we incorporated was our fire corps, which is our rehab group. They're a group of volunteers. A lot of them are retired, just wanting to help the community. And their primary purpose is to come out to fire scenes and provide rehab for our firefighters. But they wanted more responsibility. So we incorporated them into our education component. And they will go out door to door and encourage people not only about their smoke alarms, other safety issues around the home, but they'll talk about the Knox box as well. And putting them in place, again, someone they can relate to has done wonders. We've used this about 10 times, and every time that we have a success, we sell more Knox boxes. We get more installed. That information goes into our MDTs so that en route, our firefighters know that that Knox box is available. It's got the red sticker that goes on the front door. And then the owners have to put the Knox box next to the door or right across from it if they have a pillar. So we've got a lot of rules in place that will make sure that we're not searching for it, that it's going to be very apparent for when we go in. We also do news articles, newsletters. We do a lot of social media with them, and we just keep going out to sell it more and more. I will tell you, our biggest problem that we're still trying to fight and overcome is the people in the 55 and older are reaching that age where they're starting to realize that they're slowing down, but they're not convinced yet. So this is still one of those situations where, yeah, it sounds great, but that's not going to happen to me. So one of the things that we try to encourage as well, not only from the medical side, is that a lot of these people will travel to warmer climates during the winter. And if you're in Florida and your smoke alarm goes off, are you going to drive back from Florida? Probably not. So this is another situation to where we can utilize that Knox box, make entry into your home, make sure everything is safe, and then re-secure it afterwards. So we're doing a very grassroots approach to this. We've got a fairly well-to-do community. So overall, they're a very healthy community, but we all get a little older and things start to break seemingly on a day-by-day basis. So that's our approach to it. And I think you're going to hear a different approach a little bit later that is going to give you some options. So, hey, thanks for listening to me. And if you have any questions, we'll catch you at the end.
Thanks, John. Appreciate it. Some great information. Our next speaker is Rachel Leber, who is the fire and life safety educator with the Chesapeake Fire Department in Virginia. Rachel is primarily responsible for public outreach programs, juvenile fire centers, and community risk reduction. She's also a volunteer with Hanover Fire and EMS and has been with them for 26 years. Thanks, Rachel, for being with us today.
Hi, and thank you for having me. So here in Chesapeake, we do things similar to what you just heard, but a little bit different as well. So we have a residential grant program that we have established over the years, and today we'll talk a little bit more about it. So if I could get the next slide to move for me. Great, so thank you. A little bit about Chesapeake, Virginia. So Chesapeake is located kind of outside of Virginia Beach. It's a very tidewater kind of like area. We have about 351 square miles, roughly 240,000 population. And we have 15 fire stations, 3 specialty teams, roughly 457 firefighters and 33 civilians. Last year alone, we ran roughly 4,548 calls involving falls alone. Next slide. So in the beginning, back in the early 90s, early 2000s, we recognized and identified the need that some of our citizens couldn't afford a smoke alarm. So in the beginning, we decided that we would go out and we would help them afford these things by purchasing smoke alarms and batteries. So next slide, please. Over the last decade, that has grown exponentially. So not only do we provide batteries and smoke alarms, we now provide the fire stops, we provide the carbon monoxide, the bed shakers, the hearing impaired alarms, as well as the residential Knox boxes. So how do we fund it? So we fund it through a grant program called the Community Development Block Grant. And the specifications on that is it's very demographic driven. The limits are preset by the city, and the fire department gets only a very small portion of that grant. So from start to finish, pretty much the phone call comes in to myself from a citizen that is inquiring if they qualify for the free alarm program. So we gather all their information. Once it is determined that they're qualified, we put the bag together that typically includes the alarms that they qualify for, some information about the smoke alarms, the residential Knox box programs, some handouts, some safety tips, and we put it all in a bag and we send it to the fire station. And then the guys and gals at the fire station then call the homeowner once they get it and schedule for the install. And then they will go out and do the installs for the homeowners. So what that typically looks like is this is what our typical grant program application looks like. I gather all the information and then send it all through. And then once it's approved, we go ahead and send it to the fire station, like I said, and we'll record all the stuff in a spreadsheet so we can roughly see how many people we're touching with this program. So currently, some of you are familiar with this slide. We use image trend to track all of our installs. So we can, anything from our smokes to our COs to our residential Knox boxes. So our outcome so far is we've had roughly, and this number is just from 2019 alone. So we've had 10 qualified that qualified under the Community Development Block Grant that we went out and we installed. And then we've had 40 homeowner purchased Knox boxes. So similar to what the Fish Indiana captain was saying, once we get the Knox boxes and we go out, we have a specific place, which is to the left of the front door, and it goes on the doors. We make sure they have the door wrap carts, and every Knox box is in the same spot on every door. And then we put the sticker on the door as well. And then we follow up with our dispatching center so that they can update our CAD systems to let the station crew know that there is a residential Knox box that has been installed at that residence. Now, if they move and they are part of the grant program, then we do typically try to get the Knox boxes back from them, but we really haven't come across that issue yet. The ones that we've put in, the people are still there and are using them every day. So like everything, we do have some potential problems. So some of the problems that we're facing is getting the word out. How do we let our citizens know that this program's available? So we're working on different social media, different mail outs, things like that to get the word out. And then it's always, making sure that the station crew gets the data captured and it's captured right and it's captured in a timely manner. And then the technology itself. So with Image Trend, it's a great program, but there's sometimes can be issues trying to get the reports, and we have to report our numbers quarterly back to the city so they know how they're spending the money. So we've struggled a little bit with trying to get that reporting and things done from Image Trend. So our future, so how we see the future hopefully going is we're going to slowly try to migrate over to Survey 123. For those of you who are familiar with it, it's real-time data information. Those of you who are not, it's a simple program that the guys and girls at the station can use, very user-friendly, and it updates real-time information, puts it pointers on the map, and then we can go back and look and see where our money's going, where our grant's going, and see if there's maybe some opportunities to do some outreach programs in those communities. So other than that, I certainly thank you guys for letting me be on today. And if you have any questions, we'll take them at the end.
Great. Thanks, Rachel. And thanks for reminding everybody, we are taking questions. Just type in your question at the bottom in the Q&A box. Also, we might be going slightly over today on time. Hopefully, y'all will have time to stay with us, but we're going to try to get to as many questions as possible. Our final speaker today is retired Assistant Chief David Whiting, who has served more than 38 years in the fire and emergency services field with the Columbus Division of Fire. Assignments included Emergency Operations, Special Operations Chief, Safety Chief, PIO, Administration, and his last assignment as the Chief Fire Marshal. Chief Whiting currently serves as a contract instructor for the National Fire Academy in Leadership, Safety, and Community Risk Reduction programs. David, it's all yours.
Thank you, Neil. I wanted to take this opportunity to talk a little bit about writing successful grants for our fire safety grants, as people are looking to write grants for their Fire Prevention Bureau. I'm going to talk a little bit about what we did. Couple things. I want to talk a little bit about Columbus. So Columbus, we are the 14th largest city, 15th largest career fire department. Our metro area is about 1.3 million. We have 35 stations. And one of the things I want to thank NFPA, because the Remembering When program is so important. We started ours back in the early 2000s. And that's really how our program got kicked off, how we became successful with our Knox program, our home box, and looking at our seniors. You know, that we do have a lot of resources, and one of the things as a chief fire marshal, we had 2 or 3 people that were trained in Remembering When, and we attended a lot of meetings, and that's how we started down the program of, hey, here's a way we can help our seniors, because that's a big gap. One of the things, it started in 2007. One of the politicians for the state was leaving the mayor's office, or for our county, And she happened to see our fire department truck, one of our resources out there that had our Remembering When 55 plus program on it. And she reached out to us, and that's how we got started in with the Senior Services Roundtable. And that Senior Services Roundtable has over 900 individuals and groups that participate in helping our seniors around the Central High area as well as the 8-county region. And that started in 2007. Now, when we talk about the grant, what did we look at? You know, probably one of the most important things when writing a grant is what information you put in there. And with that information, we have to be able to look at the data. The data is so important. And there we go. Thanks. The data is so important. We worked with Central High Group on Aging. We looked at the health department for number of injuries, falls. We looked at our senior population, EMS run reports, where we were getting the most runs for seniors. Obviously, some senior housing and nursing homes were some of those areas. We looked at the projected growth, and then we looked at what type of injuries we had. And that's where we started. We really started looking at our Remembering When program and how important that came in to the community. But that projected growth was important too, because we realize a lot of times people do not have access, no relatives nearby. And I think the captain talked about it earlier about us breaking people's doors down. And that gets costly when they call us on incidents. And we ended up breaking people's doors down for no reason because a family member had called and no one had come to the door, so we forced the door. A little bit about our grant award. I want to talk about our grant. One of the things in 2016 we applied for and it was a fire prevention grant through FEMA. We applied for $309,300 and we did not receive that grant. So in 2018, we actually went back and looked at that grant. And the key to writing those grants is making sure you have the information you want and that they need. They need budget, they need history, they need partners, people that you're partnered with. And that was very important for us, who we partnered with. Central High Group on Aging was one of our biggest partners. Like I said, they had 900 individuals and groups with them. We told them what we wanted to do, and we met with them periodically. In fact, we still have monthly meetings with our senior roundtable where we discuss methods how to do that. So in 2018, we were awarded a grant of $303,000 for our program. And what we included in there, we included smoke alarms, we included CO alarms, which become an issue for a lot of departments not being able to afford them, and 1,000 home boxes, displays, and literature. And that was a big plus for us. And one of the things we had to figure out how we implemented it. And one of those, the biggest reasons, was our community agencies and our partnerships we had established. We had put it out to the agencies that we have these. We took referrals for our home boxes, and basically if anybody needed one, you could get them. And we put our names on the box with the phone number, so if someone passes on or someone sells a house and they find it, they know to return it to Columbus Fire, because ours boxes are designed to let people borrow them, then we get them back. And in addition, every year there is a program where we have Senior Day, and obviously it's at the Hollywood Casino in Columbus because our seniors like to gamble. So they have a lot of events there for them, and we offer discounts for buying the boxes themselves. So if people want to buy the boxes, and we've had people buy the boxes, but we also have the ones that we refer. So it's real important that we look at how we distribute those. Our goal is to get them to whoever needs them. If people want to buy them or family members want to buy them, they can. And one of the other things we do is track them. Wherever there's a box, it's put in our computer system, and it comes up on the CAD system whenever there is a run to that location. It tells us that there's a box, whether it's a home box or Knox box, and where it's at. And then we continue to look at the data. What are our trends? You know, is there any place that we need it or targeting? So that's how we implemented our box program. You know, one thing that's real important for that, though, is I remind people, if you do get grants and as you work with people, celebrate those successes. Celebrate those successes. Let people know what you're doing in the community and celebrate those successes, because that is so important for us to let people know what we're doing. That's our messaging. Our messaging is so important. So with the grants, be thorough. You know, certainly when this is over, you'll have the ability to reach out to some of us, and, you know, you can reach out to me and I can be glad to share with you some of the things we put in our grant and how we were successful. And with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Neil.
Great. Thanks, Chief Whiting. We'll try to get to as many questions as we can. The first one is for the NFPA. Is there a certain time of the year when the Remembering When program is more impactful? So we're looking at timing of education.
So the Remembering When program is less of a campaign and more of a year-round program. Due to your, there's a couple of factors you might decide that you want to up your engagement with your residents. One being September, within which is falls prevention. September is Falls Prevention Month, so don't fall in the fall. And you can capitalize on that to do some of your education and engagement with the community. And then look at your community data as well. Are there certain times of the year that you are doing more lift assist or having more home fires in the older adult population? You want to back up behind that and prepare for it.
We have a question. This is right for any of the fire departments. Have you ever had a fall victim refuse to leave for medical help because the door was broken down and there was concern?
For your purchase in Oxbox, what's the cost?
This is John. We have had people with concerns. Typically what we will do is we will try and incorporate a neighbor, or if it's not in an emergent type thing, if a family member is close by, so that at least we're leaving it in somebody's hands. Typically for our area, we have plenty of neighbors close by that will take the house into control and do their best to secure it.
Has anyone using the Knoxbox run into residents moving and failing to tell you that they moved, and new owners coming in and subsequently you enter their home without them realizing you had the ability? That would be a surprise to them, wouldn't it? Does that happen to anybody?
That has not, but typically when someone else moves into a home, they're going to change the locks. So if they don't contact us to come out and exchange the keys, probably okay on that.
Okay. I guess this is Ted. Go ahead. Sorry, Rachel.
Sorry, I was going to say the same thing as the chief said. We typically try to make a point to put our phone number in it. And it says, please do not remove without calling the Chesapeake Fire Department.
Okay. Out of curiosity, to the fire departments, have you ever had a resident who has passed on or gone into a nursing home where you've been able to get the box back and maybe donate it or use it at somebody else's home?
We have not had that situation in Fishers yet.
Yeah, as far as I know here, we all the boxes that we installed are still there.
Great. This, I guess, is for the NFPA. Do you have any tips on how to reach the adults who still have their parents living and may need the additional education on falls?
So the program, the Remembering When materials include some tips for caregivers and checklists for caregivers, whether you are a formal caregiver or informal family member. And that's actually part of our future efforts, is to build out more for that, I'll say 40 to 64-year-old population, sandwich generation, and not only as caregivers for older adults, but as future older adults and things they can begin to do for themselves.
Okay. Bumping back a question we asked about the reuse, I guess you could say, of the home boxes. Lee out of Kannapolis Fire Department, North Carolina, said that they implement an annual follow-up program to call homeowners and make sure they still need the boxes. So that's a great idea. To the fire department, when it comes to working with civic groups, are there any groups that are easier to work with than others? Hello?
That sounds like a loaded question. I was hoping somebody else would speak up. You know, I think ideally the audience that you're going to search out for is someone that has the same goal and mindset as you. You know, it doesn't really matter how nice or how motivated an organization is if they're not wanting the same outcome as you. Then you're constantly struggling to go in opposite directions. So find that like-mindedness, and I think you'll find a great partner.
Okay. There's a question about, do you have to have a Knox program in your city with the businesses to have a residential or home program? And the answer is no. You can have a home box program without the commercial program going on. You know, we're at 2:03 p.m. and we're trying to end as close as possible. So I wanted to thank all the speakers one more time. A reminder to all the participants or attendees that you will be getting a link with more information, with a recording that you could hear of the webinar, as well as some links which may be able to help you out afterward, including to get more information on the Remembering When program, on the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation, and on the Knox Home Box. So thank you very much. Have a great day and stay safe out there.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.